With a WWE legend facing additional legal issues and more, this is Wrestling Rambles. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Recalling his experience when training in WWE and being on NXT, former star of the company May said this to Steve Fall of Ringside News. They'd have us work security, and I wasn't, it's not like I was doing nothing before I was in WWE, so that was also a bit of a distraction. Sometimes when I was wanting people at the door, they were like, oh, I know you, like, I'm just a security guard. Funny thing is, nobody knew that. It was just kind of part of the job because they'd be like, hey, when are you going to get in the ring? And I'd be like, well, I don't know. So obviously things have changed since the pandemic. I don't think they do those, they call them coconut loops nearly as much. I think they do them like every other week, yeah, and mostly in select venues. So I'm not sure exactly what the layout is there anymore, but I imagine they have a lot of people there, so it's like a lot of worker ants that are able to do stuff for them. After suffering an injury during his match against Jon Moxley on AEW Dynamite, Powerhouse Hobbs posted a video of him rehabbing as he wrote, first PT session, 3-week post-op, patellar tendon repair. Talking about the dismissal of Scott D'Amore as TNA Wrestling President, ex-TNA talent Alex Shelley told Irish Wrestling and Entertainment it was very sad. Again, the sense of loss was quite strong. The other thing that I had experience in, but now many other people did, there were a handful of us who we've been through these situations where the booker has changed, and it's scary if you've not been through it because you don't know if your livelihood is going to get taken from you. I think I had to talk a lot of people off a ledge. I was happy to do that because that's what you do for your brothers and sisters. That's what you do when you're part of a team, and I think everybody's done really well. Responding to the idea of managing the team of Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, Booker T said this on his Hall of Fame podcast. I love the idea of it, but I don't want to be managing nobody, you know what I mean? I really don't. I love Bianca and Jade, and both of them wearing that fire red definitely made me feel, something special about my time with Harlem Heat. And just watching those two, they're a very dynamic duo. But no, I don't want to manage anybody. I love watching it from an outside perspective, like they say, that 30,000 foot view perspective. I like being able to watch it, man. I don't want to be on the road. I don't want to travel, and be going from city to city to city to city, state to state, country to country. I don't want to do that anymore. I really don't. I'm happy. I'm content just doing NXT and being a part of the NXT crew. I'm just so happy. Confirming that a docu-series will be coming out on him, AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland told Wrestling with Freddie a documentary series is coming out of a whole series from me becoming the first African-American AEW World Champion filmed by the Lucas brothers. They're great guys. They were there in Dynasty in St. Louis. They've been there at World's End. They've been there at Revolution. They've been non-stop since Full Gear. We're still going. We've still got a lot of story to tell. Criticizing the King of the Ring tournament that WWE is putting on, former writer for the promotion Vince Russo noted on his podcast, the King of the Ring tournament doesn't mean anything. What do they get? Is this another Money in the Bank gimmick? All it means is having a crown and doing this hand-waving gesture. Why? Why aren't they learning from that? Why aren't they learning from past years? This hasn't really elevated or gotten anybody over. We need to, like you said, add stakes or something. I don't. That's what I mean, bro, when they are just in cruise control and just keep doing it the same way they have been doing it, whether or not it has gotten anybody over. That's the part that's frustrating to me. You gotta look back and if this hasn't been working, then you gotta make some adjustments. Noting an interesting aspect to the new deal Damian Priest has with WWE, Ringside News wrote that Damian Priest recently inked a fresh contract with WWE, solidifying his commitment to the company for the foreseeable future. The confirmation of his extended tenure came hot on the heels of his triumph in capturing the World Heavyweight title, as he shared during an interview with Kathy Kelly following WWE Raw. Behind the scenes, the negotiations for Priest's new deal had been underway for some time, with insider reports from Fightful Select indicating that the agreement was finalized just in the nick of time. With his previous contract set to expire in February, discussions between Priest and WWE management intensified, culminating in the sealing of the multi-year deal. Despite the proximity of his contract's expiration, WWE sources assert that retaining Priest was always a priority for the organization. Both parties engaged in extensive discussions prior to reaching an agreement, underscoring WWE's commitment to keeping the talented superstar within their roster. An intriguing detail of Priest's contract extension is his newfound autonomy over his entrance theme, a creative freedom that he exercised to great success. Reports suggest that his new theme song has garnered widespread acclaim within WWE circles, further enhancing Priest's standing within the company. WWE's talent relations landscape has undergone restructuring in the wake of Priest's re-signing. Variety reported that Priest has also secured representation with Paradigm Talent Agency, expanding his professional footprint beyond the confines of WWE. Sticking with Damian Priest, he had this to say regarding his and Bad Bunny's influence on WWE, bringing backlash to Puerto Rico previously, telling the Rob Brown Show, "It's one of those things that goes beyond just one match or one performance. What we did culturally was monumental. We set the precedent for WWE to host successful events outside of the United States. You could feel the energy from the crowd, and we witnessed records being shattered. It became evident that this success could be replicated everywhere. Bad Bunny and I fought tooth and nail to bring Backlash to Puerto Rico. It wasn't a guaranteed decision. We wanted to showcase not only our own talents, but also involve other Latino superstars like Savio Vega and Carlito. It was about representation regardless of heritage. This laid the groundwork for future events like Rhea Ripley headlining in Perth and Gunther's upcoming showcase in Berlin. It's incredible to see the company expanding globally and giving each region its moment in the spotlight." For an update on Viking Raider ERIK, who has been off WWE programming after undergoing neck fusion surgery, his tag team partner Ivar said this to TV Insider: "It's slow and steady, it's a neck injury. I had a neck injury a few years ago. Necks are weird. We all know with Big E, his neck was weird. It's a matter of how you heal and recover. He is doing great, but it's slow and steady. It's a matter of time before he is back." Mentioning Ronda Rousey's criticisms and allegations against WWE, Gail Kim told Storytime with Dutch Mantel, "Ronda, I never thought any ill will towards her being given this opportunity. She brought so many mainstream eyes to women's wrestling and wrestling in general, and to be honest, I love her and how vocal she is. I'm a little envious of how vocal she can be, because that's truly my nature. I love how strong of a woman she is. The things that turned her off or people were turned off by, I mean, what were those things? Even when I'm thinking now, what were those things? That she was vocal? I don't know." Touching on her journey to return to in-ring action for WWE, Dakota Kai said this to Bill Pritchard of WrestleZone: "In terms of my rehab and stuff, even after I've been cleared to wrestle, I still want to stay on top of that, and if that means just doing the same things I did while I was rehabbing in terms of working out and certain things, dynamic movements and stuff, just taking the time to actually do that so I do stay on top of it and stay healthy. That's the main thing." Talking about his respect and admiration for Randy Orton, Kevin Owens told WWE's The Bump, "The most amazing part for me was actually seeing the love and respect they showed Randy Orton. Not to dwell on it, but Randy is somebody I've looked up to for so long, even before I even got to WWE as an aspiring wrestler. Then once I got here, someone who, in my opinion, is exactly what a veteran should be and what we should all aspire to be as far as an example in the locker room. Wasn't always perfect in his younger years, but he readily admits to it, owns up to the mistakes he's made. He's truly a leader without wanting to be one, without saying he's a leader. He doesn't have to say he's a locker room leader, he just is. To me, he's been as beloved as he is because he really is. It's still not enough in my opinion. To see the reception those fans gave him and to see that after all these years doing this, because he's been here a very, very long time and he's lived some really amazing things in his career, to see him he was soaking it in and I could tell it meant a lot to him. That made me almost a little emotional, honestly. Before the match started, when he was coming out, I could see it meant a lot to him, and yeah, that was a really special moment. That's what I take away the most from that whole thing, and the fans, they were incredible all night. But what they did for Randy, giving him the love and respect he deserves, that was really cool. When it comes to another legal issue that pro wrestling legend Sonny is facing, Ringside News wrote that WWE Hall of Famer Tammy SYTCH somehow always found herself in trouble with the law for one reason or another. Her DUI manslaughter case has truly changed her life, but it appears she has now been summoned as a witness in a fatal DUI crash lawsuit in Florida. In case you weren't aware at all, Tammy SYTCH had been entangled in legal troubles over the years, leading to repeated incarcerations and a tarnished reputation following her involvement in a fatal 3-car crash in 2022, which resulted in a 17-year prison sentence. Things just haven't gone well for her. According to PW Insider, Tammy SYTCH has been identified as a witness in a jury trial scheduled for July in Florida. This trial stems from the fatal DUI crash that resulted in the death of Julian Lasseter. The lawsuit filed by Yana Olivova, passenger in another car impacted during the incident, is set to commence on July 8th before the Circuit Court of Volusia County, Florida. Olivova seeks in excess of $50,000 in damages. Originally, Olivova filed a suit against SYTCH, Pente, and her own insurance company, Geico. However, an amended lawsuit filed in July 2023 listed Geico as the sole defendant in the original lawsuit. Olivova alleged that as a result of SYTCH's negligence, she suffered various bodily injuries, including permanent injury, pain, suffering, disability, mental anguish, and more. As a direct and proximate result of the negligence of defendant Tamara SYTCH, plaintiff Yana Olivova suffered bodily injury, including a permanent injury to the body as a whole, pain and suffering of both a physical and mental nature, disability, physical impairment, disfigurement, mental anguish, inconvenience, loss of capacity for the enjoyment of life, aggravation of an existing condition, expense of hospitalization, medical and nursing care and treatment, loss of earnings, loss of ability to earn money, and loss of ability to lead and enjoy a normal life. The losses are either permanent or continuing, and plaintiff will suffer the losses in the future. Plaintiff Yana Olivova also suffered other damages, including but not limited to loss of the use of the subject vehicle, damage to the subject vehicle. Plaintiff Yana Olivova will suffer or incur the injuries, expenses, and impairment in the future. Tammy SYTCH is listed as a witness who can testify regarding liability in the case. Her fiance at the time of the incident, Pente, is not listed as a witness. SYTCH's public defender in Florida has initiated an appeal of her DUI sentencing, but as of now, no ruling has been issued. It's worth noting that the court can rule directly on any motion, so there may not be any court hearings in that regard. Tammy SYTCH also faces the scrutiny of a collection agency. For an update on the health of Eddie Kingston, who may have suffered an injury at the recent New Japan Pro Wrestling event going through a table and hitting his leg on the guardrail, PW Insider reported that Kingston, who is slated for the AEW Double or Nothing Anarchy in the Arena bout, is slated to undergo testing this week to determine whether there is an injury coming out of the match. On Raw last night, Becky Lynch would end up punching Liv Morgan backstage during a segment. This would lead to Morgan getting some revenge later as she attacked Lynch in the ring. Here's some fan footage of what went down. Mentioning a return timeline for CM Punk as he has been recovering from a procedure that he had in January to address a triceps injury. Dave Meltzer noted on Wrestling Observer Radio that Punk's not that far from being back most likely. If he had his surgery at the end of January, you're looking at the end of July, August, maybe September. It's not that far away anymore. He might make SummerSlam, and if he can make SummerSlam, Punk and Drew for the title. That makes a lot of sense. Even if he can't, you can do it a month after. Punk will be back fairly soon. It's not as far away as sometimes you think because of that surgery. When it comes to his feelings on being a part of the Bloodline as a family member, the son of Umaga, ZILLA FATU, told Joey Franchise, "It feels good, Oos. It feels good. I'm happy. I feel like we all deserve it because I got people that came before us. People that came before me. You gotta give them their flowers, like Afa and Sika, like Snuka and The Rock and Peter Maivia. Those guys really started this foundation for our family. Then, obviously, The Rock, Rikishi, my uncle, Yokozuna, they all took it to a whole nother level. Then you got Roman Reigns, the Usos, the Bloodline. They taking it to a whole nother level. So it's really a family business for real, and I'm just so happy and blessed to be a part of this. I'm coming up too. Like I said, I'm on the indies, but I'm not in no rush." Fatu was then asked if he had a preference on joining either WWE or AEW, to which he replied, "WWE, Oos, that's the main one. Like I said, back to what I was saying with my family got a long history with WWE, so at the same time, I don't want to be the first Fatu or Anoa'i to go to AEW. I don't want to break that cycle, but it just gotta make sense because everybody's journey is different. My journey's different. My story's way different from Solos, from the Usos, from Roman, and Jacob Fatu. So my story, I got a whole nother chapter. I'm sitting on a whole nother side of the table." In some unfortunate news, a pro wrestling legend has passed away, as Ringside News wrote that the world of professional wrestling is a harsh and unforgiving place, and this past year has been especially sad considering the fact that quite a few wrestlers have passed away. We have more sad news to report as former AWA star Bob Bruggers has passed away. According to the Minnesota Star Tribune, former AWA and Mid-Atlantic star Bob Bruggers passed away at the age of 80. Hailing from Minnesota, Bruggers enjoyed a successful football career spanning 6 seasons in the National Football League before transitioning into professional wrestling. Trained by legends Vern Gagne and Billy Robinson, Bruggers made his mark in promotions such as the AWA, NWA Big Time in Texas, where he had memorable clashes with Roddy Piper, Championship Wrestling from Florida, and even toured Japan with IWE. Known for his football background, Bruggers incorporated a football tackle as his signature move. In 1973, Bruggers made the move to Jim Crockett Promotions Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, where he formed a formidable team with Paul Jones. Their partnership saw them capture the tag team titles with a memorable victory over Gene and Ole Anderson in April 1974, before ultimately dropping the titles to Rip Hawk and Ric Flair in July of the same year. Tragically, Bruggers' wrestling career was cut short in October 1975 when he was involved in the infamous plane crash alongside notable figures such as David Crockett, Johnny Valentine, Mr. Wrestling Tim Woods, and Ric Flair. Sustaining a broken ankle and multiple spinal injuries, Bruggers ultimately had to retire from wrestling after the crash. Following his retirement, Bruggers relocated to Florida and ventured into entrepreneurship, opening a bar. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.